All right, guys, we are going to be reacting to 20 things I wish I knew before visiting Paris. Jump in.
From my 5th trip to Paris, and I'm here to share some things you really should know if you're planning a trip to the French capital. I'm also mixing in a couple of travel tips, so let's just get started.
All right, let's see.
There are still plenty of scammers in Paris, and I feel like they've gotten more aggressive. And I'm not talking about the guys who are trying to trick you into playing that little find the ball game, but more about the guys.
Yo, those games, they used to play them a lot in New York City in the train station. They used to play that game a lot. Now they're not doing it that often, but they used to, man. Oof.
Standing at the foot of Sacré-Cœur, for example. You might know this scam where they will try and put a little string on your hand for free and then demand money. When I first went to Paris, they were there too, and you could kind of just walk past them quite easily, but the other day they grabbed both me and my girlfriend and just wouldn't let go. So I was a bit surprised by how aggressive they actually were, or the guy who were attending to me actually were. I just tried telling him not to touch me, and I tried to kind of wiggle myself out of his grab, and at the same time, another guy was doing this exact same thing to my girlfriend, while there were probably around 10 guys standing around and just coming near us. They kept following us until my girlfriend, bless her, just slapped both of their hands away from us, and they finally gave up.
Man.
I honestly feel like this is such a freaking embarrassment for the city of Paris. Here we are at one of the most famous attractions in all of France.
Question is, why you guys think that France is allowing this to happen? Let me know in the comment section below.
And you literally have to fight your way out of there. I'm just saying that I would cringe so hard if stuff like that happened here in my city. On a more positive note, forget everything you've heard about the rudeness of French waiters. Just start every interaction with a quick bonjour and just speak to people like they are people. Everybody knows enough English to get by these days, and chances are that you're probably eating at a place where they are pretty used to tourists. Now, if you want to experience rude service staff, you should just head over to Budapest.
Why is it? What's the difference between Budapest and Paris? Is because there's not a lot of tourists in those areas? I don't know. Let me know.
All the viral TikTok videos are not lying. The Palais Garnier isn't just stunning in the TikTok videos. It is hands down one of the most stunning buildings I've ever been to. So I definitely recommend paying the 10 euros to visit the National Opera House here in the city center of Paris. The area northwest of Sacré-Cœur in Montmartre is amazing. So when you're off to visit the famous Sacré-Cœur and Montmartre district, instead of getting off the metro at Abscess, get off at the Lamarck station and check out a part of Paris that I think is pretty underrated.
Wow, that's so beautiful. That's gorgeous.
By the way, this is how Montmartre next to Sacré-Cœur looks like on a random Saturday in November. Pretty stressful, to be honest, and just imagine how it must be in the high season. So on my first trip to Paris, I stayed near the big old church and went up there before 8 in the morning, and that's actually still one of my favorite memories of Paris.
Wow.
So I'd highly recommend getting up early and try and beat the worst crowds when you're checking out Sacré-Cœur. Pantheon is one of the best known monuments in Paris, and I'm not trying to talk you out of visiting the Pantheon, but I was actually quite surprised by its next door neighbor, Saint-Étienne-du-Mont. I actually think that this way smaller church may be even more impressive than Pantheon, and it's literally right next door and free to enter, so make sure you head in there when you're in the area.
Never skip a church in Paris.
In general, whenever you see a church in Paris, head in and have a look around. They're all extremely beautiful.
That's the years of art, right?
The Paris metro network is excellent, and the ticketing system is super easy. You just buy a single ticket for €2.10, and then you can just use that to ride as far as you want for 2 hours. They also tell you that there are 2 apps where you can buy tickets, but we couldn't get them to work, so I'm not sure if that's something to do with having a foreign credit card or something like that, but they didn't work for us, so we just had to buy tickets the old school way.
Okay, that's not bad.
The airport train is cheap and quite efficient, but to be honest, it's a bit of a disaster on the inside. The seats are set up quite weirdly, and there's no room for luggage.
A little old, they look a little old.
Europeans who might have only just flown a couple of hours to get to Paris, That's alright because it takes only 40 minutes into the city, but if you're coming from America or Asia, I would probably recommend getting a taxi into town. We took a Bolt taxi from our hotel and out to Charles de Gaulle. That took about an hour and cost 48 euros, where the train costs, I think, almost 12 euros per person.
The Eiffel Tower is quite high.
Call me a moron, but I hadn't really thought about just how misty Paris would get on a November morning. So when we went to the Eiffel Tower at 9:30, the top of the tower was still covered with morning clouds. And I just felt so bad for the tourists who had bought the expensive ticket to go to the top. Now, I actually went to the top floor of the Eiffel Tower back in 2016 or something, so on this trip I wanted to see how the second floor compared, and I've gotta say that I think the second floor is actually superior to the top one. It's less congested by fellow tourists and not as claustrophobic as the...
And also looks very cold. I don't know how cold France is, but it seems like it's very cold.
Top floor.
Not very cold, but at least colder than Spain.
Do you know what the worst thing about the Eiffel Tower is? That is that you can't see the Eiffel Tower from it. So I was actually super excited to check out this free rooftop terrace at Galerie Lafayette. It's nice.
It is cold.
And it's also
right now,
pretty
it's 38 degrees Fahrenheit, lowest 29. So it is kind of cold. So they do have a lot of snow over there. There's snow warning as well, and ice warning. Damn. Wow.
famous. So there are quite a few other people. So once again, try and get there as early in the day as possible. If you've been dreaming of visiting Paris with the love of your life and you've been looking forward to putting a love lock on the Love Lock Bridge, I'm afraid it's not
Europe,
possible.
they like to do that. Germany, they love to do that. They love to do
anymore.
that.
The weight of all the locks was actually damaging the bridge, so they had to put up all this plastic to protect it from the love locks. One of the coolest streets I went to in Paris was Rue des Martyrs in the Pigalle district, and I think you could actually just spend a full day there just getting coffee, getting food, baked goods and drinks here, and it would be a pretty epic day.
Food in Paris is as good as they say.
And
Ooh.
yes, the food in Paris is as good as they say. It's excellent even in the more touristy restaurants, to be honest. So it's easy to just go all in on French food. But remember that Paris is a massive capital city with a lot to offer. So it's alright not to eat French food all the time. For example, I went to some awesome Mexican and Asian restaurants here on my latest trip to Paris.
I don't know how you guys like Mexican food. I'm not into it. I'm not into it, man. Not into it.
The area just north of Jardin du Luxembourg, the Luxembourg Gardens, is absolutely amazing. I hadn't been there before, but now I think it's one of the best places in Paris, to be honest. It just seemed like there was a great mix of both locals and tourists, and there were literally cool restaurants, bars and cafes on every street corner. I stayed in a hotel called Hotel Luxembourg Park on this trip, and the location of that was pretty ideal, to be honest.
It's gorgeous, man. And they're okay. That's not... It's very clean. Very clean.
You probably know that the famous Notre Dame Cathedral caught fire back in 2019. But the good news is that it reopens in December 2024. So once again, we can all enjoy one of the most iconic cathedrals in the world from the inside. When it comes to historic attractions and things to do in general here in the French capital, I feel like there are almost too many to choose from. So my advice here is that you don't scrape yourself too thin and try and see everything Paris has to offer, especially if it's your first trip. Paris is a massive city, so getting from A to B can take a bit of time, and to be honest, what I think makes Paris one of the best places to visit in Europe is actually the fact that it's just the ideal place to just stroll about. There will always be a cute little alley with a nice cafe, or you might stumble upon a cool spot where the locals hang out. So don't fill out your Paris itinerary with too much stuff, make room for just walking around and enjoying the French capital.
There you go.
The Parisians are not early risers, so apparently the locals like to sleep in. Most people we saw
Hey, nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that.
on the streets before 10 or 11 in the morning were actually tourists.
They like to sleep in a little bit. That's it. That's fine.
The usual time to eat dinner in Paris is around 8 in the evening, so
Damn, 8 o'clock. Well, it's kind of late, right?
before
Yeah.
that it's quite easy to just walk into a restaurant and get a table, but be aware that a lot of the places are closed between lunch and dinner, so a lot of places are just opening up at around 7 or maybe even
Yeah.
7:30 in the evening.
Water's free,
Water
okay.
is free at restaurants, and
That's
they'll
good.
always bring you a bottle of tap water when they hand you the food menu. I think that's brilliant and just how it should be, but they don't agree over in Italy and many other places in Europe where you have to pay
yeah.
for water, so that's nice, Paris. I hope you
Yeah,
enjoyed
that,
this
actually, that's very nice. That's very nice.
video and found
Good video. That give you a little bit of glimpse of you know what's crazy? There's always these 2, 3, or 4 perspectives in some of the experiences of Americans or just foreigners going to Paris, some of these other European countries. I find it fascinating when some of them are very honest, but they always not only tell you the bad, but they always prompt the good of some of these countries. And I have to say, like, yeah, it's very good. Paris is not only that little tower area, it's just the outside of that city. Gorgeous, man. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below, guys. I will see you in the next one.